3 days ago, Alice held the phone against her ear, her heart pounding as she heard the words that would change her life. "Congratulations, Miss Brennan. The position is yours. The salary will be deposited weekly, in cash. $5,000 a month. $5,000 to clean a house." Alice could hardly believe her luck. After 6 months unemployed, struggling to pay the overdue rent on her tiny Brooklyn apartment, this seemed like a miracle fallen from heaven. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she had responded, her voice choked with emotion. "I promise you won't regret it." The woman from the agency just laughed softly. A strange sound, almost dark, but Alice was too busy planning how she'd pay her debts to notice. "Now, you need to sign." Alice stared at the 20-page document in front of her, her hands trembling. The room was dark, lit only by a bronze lamp over the mahogany desk. The smell of expensive cigars and whiskey hung in the heavy air. I don't understand." "The agency said it was to work as a housekeeper." Her voice came out weak, almost a whisper. The man sitting across from her lit a cigarette, his black eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach turn. Santino Marcello. Even sitting, he radiated power and danger. His black hair was perfectly slicked back with gel, revealing an angular face with aristocratic features. But it was impossible not to notice the tattoos, dark, intricate lines that ran up his neck, disappearing under the collar of his impeccable black shirt, reappearing on the hands that held the cigarette with deadly elegance. "Change of plans, Tesoro," he said, his deep voice carrying a slight Italian accent that made every word dangerously seductive. "You're not going to clean anything. You're going to pretend to be my sister." "What?" Alice stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the marble floor. "This is insane. I can't. Sit down." It wasn't a request. It was an order, sharp as a blade. Alice sat. Santino stood, walking around the desk with measured steps. He was tall, very tall, and when he stopped beside her, Alice had to tilt her head back to look at him. The tattoo on his neck was hypnotic up close, a dragon wrapped in flames that seemed to pulse beneath the skin. "A man will come to dinner here tomorrow, Matthias Ricci. He is—" Santino paused, his lips curving into a humorless smile. "A business associate. He needs to believe we're a legitimate family, that I have ties, weaknesses." "Why?" His eyes met hers, and Alice felt a shiver run down her spine. "Because men with weaknesses are predictable, controllable." He stubbed out the cigarette forcefully in the ashtray. "You're going to smile, you're going to call him Zio, you're going to make him trust you. Then," his tattooed fingers slid across the contract, "then you're going to tell me everything he says when I'm not in the room." "This is espionage," Alice whispered, horrified. "This is survival." She looked at the door. 2 shadows moved on the other side. Bodyguards, no doubt. "And if I refuse?" Santino leaned in, his hands resting on the arms of her chair, trapping her. He smelled of bergamot and danger. His lips were so close that Alice could feel his hot breath against her skin. "You have $23,000 in debt, Alice Brennan. Your landlord wants to evict you. You were fired from your last job for stealing food." Each word was a precise stab. "I know everything about you." Tears burned in her eyes. "Sign." He placed an expensive pen in her trembling hand. "And in a month you'll have enough money to start over. A new life. Far from here." Alice looked at the contract, at the pen, at Santino's cold eyes, and she signed. When the ink dried on the paper, she felt she had sold much more than her signature. She had sold her soul. The first lesson began at dawn. Alice woke to find a woman in her room, tall, elegant, with silver hair pulled into a severe bun. She didn't knock, didn't introduce herself, simply threw open the curtains and announced, "You have 3 days to become a Marcello. Get up." Her name was Vittoria, and she was merciless. "A Marcello woman doesn't slouch," Vittoria snapped, jabbing a ruler against Alice's spine. "Shoulders back, chin up. You're not a mouse anymore. You're a predator's sister. The mansion became Alice's prison and classroom. She memorized fabricated childhood stories, learned Italian phrases, studied photographs of people who didn't exist. Every detail had to be perfect. Every lie had to become truth. But it was Santino who taught her the most dangerous lessons. On the second day, he summoned her to his office. Alice entered to find him behind his desk, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal more tattoos, intricate patterns of thorns and Latin words she couldn't read winding up his forearms. He didn't look up from the documents he was signing. "Sit." She obeyed, watching as he worked. His hands moved with precision, every movement controlled, calculated. The dragon on his neck shifted with each breath. "Matthias is not a fool," Santino finally spoke, setting down his pen. "He's survived 30 years in this business by reading people. One wrong look from you, one hesitation, and he'll know. I'll be careful." Careful isn't enough. He stood walking around the desk. "Come here." Alice's pulse quickened. "Why?" "Because I said so." She rose on shaky legs. Santino positioned himself in front of her, so close she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "Matthias will test you. He'll invade your space, touch your hand. Watch how you react to me." His fingers suddenly gripped her chin, tilting her face up. The touch was firm, possessive. "If you flinch when I'm near, he'll know we're not family." Alice's breath caught. His thumb brushed along her jawline, the gesture almost tender if not for the ice in his gaze. "Siblings are comfortable with each other," he continued, his voice dropping lower. "They touch without thinking. Look at me like I disgust you." She tried. God, she tried. But with him this close, smelling like expensive cologne and danger, disgust was the last thing she felt. "Pathetic," he murmured. But something flickered in his eyes, something that wasn't entirely cold. His hand dropped from her face. "Again, tomorrow, until you get it right." The third day, Vittoria transformed her physically. Alice barely recognized herself in the mirror. Her red hair had been styled in soft waves, her face subtly made up to enhance her features. The dress they'd chosen was elegant but modest, deep emerald silk that hugged her curves without being provocative. "Better," Vittoria assessed. "You almost look like you belong here." That evening, Santino inspected her personally. He circled her slowly, predatory, assessing every detail. Alice forced herself to stand still under his scrutiny, even as her skin prickled with awareness. "Turn around." She did, feeling his gaze burn into her back. When she faced him again, something had shifted in his expression. His jaw was tight, eyes darker than before. "The dress is acceptable," he said, voice rougher than usual. He stepped closer, adjusting the thin strap on her shoulder. His fingers lingered a moment too long against her bare skin. "But you're too nervous. Matthias will smell fear like blood in water." "I'm not afraid of him," Alice whispered. "No." Santino's eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, she saw something raw beneath the ice. "You're afraid of me." He was right, but not in the way he thought. She was afraid of how her body responded when he was near, afraid of the way her heart raced when he said her name, afraid that this was more than just an act. "Tomorrow night," Santino continued, stepping back abruptly as if he'd felt it too. That dangerous current between them. "You'll call me Fratello. You'll smile at Matthias. You'll make him believe that you love your big brother more than anything in this world. And what will you do?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I'll play the protective brother who would burn the world down for his little sister." The way he said it made Alice shiver. Because in that moment, standing in the dim light of his office with those intense eyes fixed on her, it didn't sound like acting at all. That night, Alice couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony of her room, looking out at the manicured gardens below. The mansion was beautiful, a gilded cage. "Nervous about tomorrow?" She spun around. Santino stood in the doorway connecting their rooms. a detail she'd only just discovered. He wore only black silk pajama pants, his tattooed chest bare. In the moonlight, the ink seemed alive, telling stories of violence and survival. "I thought you'd be asleep," Alice managed. "I don't sleep much." He moved onto the balcony, leaning against the railing beside her, close, but not touching. "Second thoughts about our arrangement. Would it matter if I did?" No. His honesty was almost refreshing. They stood in silence, the night air cool against Alice's skin. She was acutely aware of his proximity, of the heat radiating from his body. "Why me?" she finally asked. "There must be hundreds of women who could do this." Santino was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because you have the right eyes." "What?" He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her breath stop. Honest eyes, innocent. His hand rose, and Alice thought he might touch her face again. Instead, he curled his fingers into a fist and lowered it. "Matthias will trust those eyes. He'll never see the lie. And after? When this is over? Then you disappear. New name, new life. You'll never see me again." The thought should have relieved her. Instead, it felt like loss. "Get some sleep, Alice," Santino said, already turning away. "Tomorrow you become my sister, and Matthias Ricci's worst mistake." As he disappeared back into his room, Alice touched her face where his fingers had been days before. 3 days of preparation. 3 days of learning to lie. But the most dangerous deception, she was beginning to realize, was the one she was telling herself. That this was just business. That she felt nothing. That when Santino looked at her with those dark, haunted eyes, she didn't wish, just for a moment, that this twisted fairy tale could be real. The dining room gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Alice's hands trembled as she smoothed down her emerald dress for the 100th time. Through the tall windows, she could see a black Mercedes pulling up the circular driveway. He was here. "Breathe." Santino's voice came from behind her, low and steady. His hand settled on the small of her back, warm, possessive, grounding. "Remember, you've known me your whole life. I'm not a stranger. I'm your brother." Alice turned to face him. He looked devastating in a tailored black suit, his hair perfectly styled, the dragon tattoo on his neck a stark contrast against his crisp white collar. But it was his eyes that held her, dark, intense, with a warning that said, "Don't fail me." "What if I mess up?" she whispered. His jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Concern, perhaps, or something deeper. His thumb traced a small circle against her back, the gesture unconscious, intimate. "Then we both die," he said simply. "So don't." Before Alice could respond, the doors opened. Matthias Ricci entered like he owned the world. He was shorter than Santino, but carried himself with the confidence of a man who'd survived 3 decades in the underworld. Silver streaked his dark hair, and his smile was all charm, the kind that hid sharp teeth. His eyes, however, were calculating, missing nothing as they swept from Santino to Alice. "Santino." Matthias embraced him, kissing both cheeks in the Italian tradition. "It's been too long, amico mio." "Matthias." Santino's voice was warm, but Alice felt the tension in his body. "Welcome to my home." Then those calculating eyes turned to her, and Alice's stomach dropped. "And who is this bellissima creatura?" Matthias took her hand, bringing it to his lips. His kiss lingered too long, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "You didn't tell me you had such a beautiful sister, Santino." "Alice, meet Matthias Ricci." Santino's hand moved from her back to her shoulder, pulling her subtly closer to him. "An old family friend. Matthias, my younger sister Alice." "Piacere, Alice." Matthias's eyes traveled down her body, undressing her. "I had no idea Santino was hiding such a treasure." Alice forced a smile, remembering Vittoria's lessons. "Zio Matthias, my brother has told me so much about you." "Zio?" Matthias laughed, delighted. "She calls me uncle," Santino, your sister is charming. She's off limits, Santino said, the words casual but edged with steel. Something dangerous flashed in Mateus's eyes before his smile widened. Of course. Shall we eat? Dinner was a carefully orchestrated dance of deception. Alice sat between the two men, acutely aware of every word, every gesture. Mateus dominated the conversation, telling stories punctuated with booming laughter, his hand occasionally touching her arm, her shoulder, once even her knee under the table. Each time she felt Santino tense beside her. So, Alice, Mateus said, refilling her wine glass for the third time. Where have you been hiding? I've known your brother for years, never heard him mention a sister. Alice's heart hammered. This was the test. I was studying abroad, she said smoothly, the lie rolling off her tongue like truth. Art history in Florence. I just returned last month. Florence. Che meraviglia. Mateus leaned closer, his breath reeking of wine and garlic. What brought you back? I missed my fratello. Alice turned to Santino, and the look she gave him wasn't entirely acting. There was something real in her eyes. Gratitude, trust, maybe something more dangerous. We lost our parents young. He's all the family I have. She reached for Santino's hand on the table, his fingers intertwined with hers instantly, the touch sending electricity through her body. When she looked at him, his eyes had softened in a way she'd never seen. Almost genuine. And I would do anything to protect her, Santino said, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. The gesture was meant for Mateus, but the intensity in his gaze was all for Alice. Anything. The word hung in the air like a promise. Or a threat. Mateus watched them, his smile never faltering, but Alice saw the wheels turning behind his eyes. How touching, he said finally. Family is everything, no? Which is why I'm here, Santino. I have a proposition. A way for us to become closer. Like family. Santino's hand tightened around Alice's. I'm listening. A partnership, my connections in Chicago, your operations here in New York. Together we'd control the entire East Coast. Mateus pulled out a cigar, lighting it slowly. Of course, such a partnership requires trust. Assurances. What kind of assurances? Mateus's eyes slid to Alice, lingering on her lips. A bond. Perhaps a marriage arrangement? The temperature in the room dropped. Santino's hand went from holding Alice's to gripping it, his knuckles white. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. My sister is not for sale, Matthias. Not sale, amico. Alliance. Think of it. Our families united. Your beautiful sister would want for nothing. I'd treat her like a queen. Alice felt sick. She'd been prepared for many things, but not this. She's 25 years old, Santino continued, each word carefully controlled. She has her whole life ahead of her. She'll marry for love, not business. Love? Matthias laughed. Santino, we're not in the business of love. We're in the business of power. Your sister understands this, see, Alice? All eyes turned to her. This was the moment. The real test. Alice knew what she had to do. Play along. Make Mateus think she was considering it. Gain his trust. But when she opened her mouth, something else came out. I'm flattered, Zio Mateus, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. But my brother is right. I'm not interested in marriage. Not now. Perhaps not ever. Mateus's smile froze. Santino's eyes snapped to her face, surprised, searching. Besides, Alice continued, squeezing Santino's hand, feeling bold and reckless and terrified all at once. My brother takes care of me. I don't need another man to do that. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Mateus threw his head back and laughed, a sound without warmth. Spirit, I like that. He stood, stubbing out his cigar. Forgive me, Bella. I meant no offense. Business can wait. Tonight is for family, see? But as he moved around the table to kiss Alice's hand goodbye, he leaned close to her ear. "Your brother may protect you, little one," he whispered, so quiet Santino couldn't hear. "But everyone has a price, even him. Remember that." When he pulled back, his smile was pleasant, empty. After Matthias left, Alice and Santino stood in the foyer, the sound of the Mercedes fading into the night. "You shouldn't have refused him so directly," Santino said, his voice tight. "That wasn't the plan. He was talking about marrying me off like cattle. You were supposed to play along, make him trust you. By agreeing to marry him?" Alice spun to face him, anger replacing fear. "You said I had to pretend to be your sister, not your property." Santino's eyes blazed. He grabbed her arms, pulling her close, his control finally cracking. "Do you have any idea what kind of man he is? What he could do if he suspects something?" His fingers dug into her skin, not quite painful, but desperate. "I told you to be careful, and I told you I'm not afraid of him." Alice shot back, her hands pressed against his chest. She could feel his heart pounding as hard as hers. "I'm not some fragile thing you can manipulate, Santino." They stood there, breathing hard, inches apart, rage and something far more dangerous crackling between them. "No," Santino said finally, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. His eyes searched her face, her flushed cheeks, her parted lips, her defiant eyes. "You're not." His thumb brushed her cheekbone, the touch achingly gentle compared to his grip on her arms. "You were perfect tonight," he admitted, and the words sounded like they were torn from him. "Too perfect. The way you looked at me, held my hand." Matthias believed every second. Because it wasn't all acting, Alice thought but didn't say. "Did it work?" she whispered instead. "Did he trust me?" Santino's jaw clenched. Slowly, reluctantly, he released her. "Yes, which makes you more valuable." He stepped back, and the cold mask slipped back into place. "And infinitely more dangerous to keep alive when this is over." The words hit Alice like ice water. "Get some rest," Santino said, already walking toward his office. "Tomorrow, the real work begins." Alice watched him disappear into the shadows, her arms still tingling where he'd held her. She'd survived the first test, but as she climbed the stairs to her room, Matthias's words echoed in her mind. Everyone has a price, even him. She wondered what price Santino would ultimately pay, and if she'd survive being the currency. The phone call came 2 days later. Alice was in the library pretending to read when Vittoria appeared with a cell phone. "For you, Matthias Ricci." Her blood turned cold. Santino appeared in the doorway instantly, his eyes sharp, alert. He nodded once, a silent command. "Answer it. Play your part." Alice took the phone with trembling fingers. "Pronto? Alice, cara mia!" Matthias's voice was warm, friendly, hiding whatever truly lurked beneath. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I can't stop thinking about our dinner. You made quite an impression." Santino moved closer, close enough to hear. His jaw was tight, hands clenched. "You're very kind, Zio," Alice said, forcing lightness into her voice. "It was lovely to finally meet you. I wonder, would you join me for lunch tomorrow? Just the two of us. I'd love to hear more about your time in Florence. Your brother speaks so little of himself, perhaps you can fill in the gaps for me." There it was, the real reason for the call. Alice looked at Santino. He gave a curt nod, though his eyes had gone dark, dangerous. "I'd be delighted," she lied. "Where should I meet you?" "Carmine's, 1 o'clock. And Alice? Come alone. No bodyguards, no drivers, just you and me, like family." The line went dead. Santino grabbed the phone from her hand, resisting the urge to crush it. "Absolutely not." "We knew this would happen," Alice said, standing. "You said I'd have to get close to him. Not alone, not without protection. If I show up with your men, he'll know something's wrong." Alice moved toward him, frustrated. "This is what you hired me for, remember? To make him trust me? I won't send you into the wolf's den unprotected. Then what was the point of all this? Alice gestured between them, her voice rising. The contract? The training? The charade? If you won't let me do the job, then— You don't understand what kind of man he is, Santino exploded, his control finally shattering. He grabbed her shoulders, eyes blazing. Matthias doesn't just kill people, Alice. He destroys them, slowly, painfully. If he even suspects you're lying, then I won't give him a reason to suspect. Alice placed her hands over his, feeling the tremor in his fingers. Santino, I can do this. You have to trust me. Trust? He laughed bitterly. I don't trust anyone. Then why did you choose me? The question hung between them. Santino's grip on her shoulders loosened, his thumbs unconsciously stroking the bare skin where her dress straps rested. Because you're the only person in this God-forsaken world who still has something pure in them, he said quietly, his voice raw. And I'm about to destroy that. Just like I destroy everything I touch. Alice's breath caught at the pain in his eyes. You haven't destroyed me, she whispered. Not yet. That night, Alice couldn't sleep again. She found herself on the balcony, wrapped in a silk robe, staring at the stars.
The connecting door to Santino's room was ajar. It always was now, she'd noticed. Like he needed to know she was close. She heard him before she saw him. The clink of glass, the splash of liquid. When she turned, he was leaning against the doorframe, a tumbler of whiskey in his hand, watching her. Can't sleep either, she asked. I told you. I don't sleep much. He moved onto the balcony, offering her the glass. Nightmares. Alice took a sip, the whiskey burning down her throat.
What do you dream about? Things I've done. People I've killed. He said it so matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. My father. Your father? Santino took the glass back, draining it. He built this empire. Taught me everything. How to fight, how to negotiate, how to look a man in the eyes while you end his life. His fingers tightened around the glass. He also taught me that love is weakness. That caring for anyone is a liability. Do you believe that? His eyes found hers in the darkness. I did. Until— He didn't finish, but the way he looked at her said everything. Tell me about him, Alice said softly. Your father. Why? Because if I'm supposed to be your sister, I should know these things. And because— She hesitated, then touched his arm gently. Because I want to understand you. Something cracked in Santino's expression. He set down the glass and moved to the railing, staring out at the gardens. He was murdered 3 years ago, he said finally. Stabbed 17 times in his own home. They left him to bleed out on the floor like an animal. Santino. Alice moved beside him, her hand finding his. I was supposed to be there that night. I was late. By the time I arrived, his voice broke, just slightly. There was so much blood, and he was still alive, just barely. He looked at me and said, Vendetta. Revenge. Did you find who did it? All but one. His hand turned, gripping hers tightly. Matthias Ricci. Alice's world tilted. What? He ordered the hit. I can't prove it, but I know. My father was about to expose his operation to the FBI. Matthias found out, and he acted first. Santino turned to face her, and in his eyes, she saw a fury so deep it was terrifying. That's why I need you, Alice. That's why you have to make him trust you. Because once he does, once he lets his guard down and tells you something, anything, I can use, I'll finally have the evidence to destroy him. And then? His smile was cold, merciless. Then I'll kill him myself. Slowly. Just like he killed my father. Alice should have been horrified, should have run. But instead, she saw past the rage to the broken man beneath, a son who'd lost his father, who'd spent 3 years plotting revenge, who'd forgotten how to be anything except a weapon. The lunch tomorrow, she said. What do you need me to find out? Santino studied her face, searching for fear, for judgment. He found only determination. His schedule, where he'll be next week. He's planning something big, a shipment, a meeting, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's happening soon. I'll get it. Alice. He cupped her face with both hands, the gesture achingly tender. If anything happens to you, nothing will happen. If it does, if he hurts you, I'll burn the entire city down. It should have sounded like madness. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Alice leaned into his touch, her eyes closing. I'm not afraid, Santino. You should be. Of him, of me, of this whole fucked up situation. When she opened her eyes, his face was inches from hers. She could feel his breath, see the war raging behind his eyes, desire fighting with restraint. You're not what I expected, he whispered. Neither are you. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her, wanted him to. His thumb brushed her lower lip, his eyes darkening with an hunger that made her knees weak. But then he stepped back, the moment shattering like glass. Get some rest, he said, his voice rough. Tomorrow you face the devil, and you'll need all your strength. He disappeared into his room, leaving Alice alone on the balcony, her lips still tingling from his almost touch. The next morning, Alice dressed carefully, a pale blue dress that looked innocent, understated. She studied herself in the mirror, hardly recognizing the woman staring back. 3 weeks ago, she'd been desperate, broke, alone. Now she was a spy, a liar, possibly falling for the most dangerous man she'd ever met. Vittoria appeared to give her final instructions, a tiny microphone disguised as a pearl earring. He'll try to charm you, she warned. Don't fall for it. And don't drink too much wine. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Vittoria's sharp eyes saw too much. Because you're starting to look at Santino differently. Like he's a man, not a monster. That's dangerous, Alice. He is a man. He's a killer. Don't forget that. But as Alice descended the stairs and found Santino waiting in the foyer, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit, his eyes full of concern and something deeper, she wondered if it was possible to be both. Monster and man. Killer and protector. Enemy and something else entirely. He walked her to the door, his hand on her lower back. If you feel unsafe for even a second, he said quietly, you say the word Florence, and I'll have 10 men there in under 3 minutes. I'll be fine. Alice. He turned her to face him, his hands framing her face. Come back to me. Promise. The way he said it, desperate, raw, real, made her heart clench. I promise. He kissed her forehead, the gesture so tender it brought tears to her eyes. When he pulled back, his mask had returned. Go. And remember, you're a Marcello. You bow to no one. As the car pulled away, Alice watched him in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway like a dark guardian. She was walking into the lion's den. And for the first time, she wasn't sure which man was more dangerous, the one she was about to have lunch with, or the one she was falling for. Carmine's was everything Alice expected. Old money, dim lighting, the kind of place where deals were made in whispers and blood was washed off with expensive wine. Matthias was already seated at a corner table, away from prying eyes. He stood when he saw her, his smile wide and welcoming. Alice, bellissima. He kissed both her cheeks, his hands lingering on her waist. You look radiant. Blue suits you. Thank you, Zio. Alice forced herself not to flinch as he pulled out her chair, his fingers brushing her shoulders. In her ear, through the tiny microphone, she heard Santino's voice. Barely a whisper. Breathe. You're doing fine. Knowing he was listening, that he was close, steadied her racing heart. Matthias ordered for them both without asking. Wine, antipasti, veal. The presumption grated, but Alice smiled through it. So, he said, pouring her wine with practiced ease. Tell me about Florence. What did you study there? Alice launched into her rehearsed stories, the Uffizi Gallery, Renaissance art, long afternoons sketching in the Piazzale Michelangelo, half-truths built on research and Vittoria's coaching. Matthias listened, attentive, nodding in all the right places. But his eyes never stopped calculating, measuring, searching for cracks in her facade. Your Italian is excellent, he observed. Almost too perfect for someone who only lived there a few years. Alice's stomach dropped. In her ear, he's testing you. Stay calm. My mother was from Napoli, she said smoothly, the lie rolling easily now. She insisted we speak Italian at home. It was one of the last things she taught me before she died. She let her voice crack just slightly, her eyes misting with manufactured tears. Matthias's expression softened. Forgive me, Cara. I didn't mean to bring up painful memories. It's all right. Alice touched his hand briefly, playing her part. Santino doesn't like to talk about them, our parents. It's too hard for him. Yes, your brother. He's very protective of you. Sometimes too protective. She sipped her wine, careful to drink slowly. He treats me like I'm still a child. Does that bother you? Sometimes I wish he'd let me breathe. Let me make my own choices. Alice met Matthias's eyes, letting him see what he wanted to see. A young woman suffocated by an overbearing brother. He controls everything. Who I see, where I go, it's exhausting. Matthias leaned forward, his interest piqued. Perhaps that's why he never mentioned you, keeping you hidden away, like Rapunzel in her tower. Perhaps. Tell me, Alice. His hand covered hers on the table, thumb stroking her knuckles. What do you know about your brother's business? There it was, the real reason for this lunch. In her ear. Careful. I know he imports things, Alice said, playing innocent. Wine, olive oil. He has warehouses by the docks. Matthias smiled. Is that what he told you? Isn't it true? Oh, Piccola, you really don't know, do you? He signaled for more wine. Your brother is one of the most powerful men on the East Coast. He controls shipping routes, distribution networks. Nothing moves through New York without Santino Marcello knowing about it. Alice widened her eyes, feigning shock. I don't understand. No, I suppose you wouldn't. He's kept you very sheltered. Matthias's grip on her hand tightened, but that's going to change soon. Everything is about to change. What do you mean? He leaned back, studying her. For a moment, Alice thought she'd pushed too hard, asked too much, but then he laughed. There's a shipment coming next Thursday, from Genoa. If everything goes according to plan, your brother and I will control every major port from Boston to Miami. He raised his glass. To new partnerships. Alice clinked her glass against his, her mind racing. Thursday, a shipment from Genoa, in her ear. Perfect. Keep him talking. That sounds impressive, Alice said. Santino must be excited. Does he seem excited to you? The question was casual but loaded. I suppose not. But then, my brother never seems excited about anything. He's always so serious, tense. Does he have enemies? People who might want to hurt him? Alice's blood ran cold. This was dangerous territory. I don't know. He doesn't talk to me about those things. But you must hear things, see things, late-night meetings, phone calls, men coming and going at odd hours. He was fishing, trying to find out how much she knew, how much she could tell him about Santino's operations. Sometimes, Alice admitted, knowing she had to give him something. There was a man last week. They argued in Santino's office. I couldn't hear what they said, but my brother was angry. Really angry. Matthias leaned forward. What did this man look like? I only saw him from the back, tall gray suit. Santino called him Franco? Francis? Something like that. It was a lie. There had been no man. But she needed to feed Matthias enough to keep him interested without revealing she knew nothing useful. Interesting. Matthias's eyes gleamed. Did your brother seem worried after this meeting? Yes. He barely slept that night. I heard him in his office until dawn. More lies, built on truths. Santino never slept, but not because of some fictional meeting. Alice, cara mia, I'm going to be honest with you. Matthias took both her hands now, his face earnest. I'm concerned about your brother. He's making dangerous decisions, taking unnecessary risks. I want to help him, but I need to know what's really going on. You understand? No, what she understood was that Matthias was trying to use her against Santino. I want to help too, Alice said, injecting worry into her voice. But I don't know how. He shuts me out of everything. You could pay attention. Listen when he's on the phone. Tell me if anyone suspicious comes to the house. His thumbs circled her wrists, possessive. I could protect you, Alice. If something happened to Santino, you'd need someone to look after you. The implication was clear. He was already planning for Santino's death. In her ear, Santino's voice was pure ice. Stay calm. Don't react. Nothing's going to happen to my brother, Alice said firmly, pulling her hands back. He's too smart, too careful. Everyone makes mistakes eventually. Not Santino. The conviction in her voice was real, and Matthias noticed. His smile faded slightly. You care for him very much. He's my brother. He's all I have. And what if I told you he's not the man you think he is? That he's done terrible things? Alice met his eyes steadily. We've all done things we're not proud of. That doesn't mean we're beyond redemption. For a moment, something dark flickered across Matthias's face. Then he laughed, breaking the tension. You're loyal. I admire that. He signaled for the check. Walk with me. There's a park nearby. It's beautiful this time of day. Every instinct screamed danger. But Alice had her orders. I'd like that. The park was indeed beautiful. Tree-lined paths, autumn leaves crunching underfoot. It was also isolated. Matthias walked close, his arm brushing hers. You know, Alice, you remind me of someone. My daughter. Alice's heart stopped. You have a daughter? Had. His voice turned cold. She died. 10 years ago. Cancer. She was 23. Your age. I'm so sorry. She was beautiful, like you. Innocent, trusting. He stopped walking, turning to face her. Her death destroyed her mother. My wife killed herself 6 months later. Since then, I've been alone. The vulnerability in his voice sounded almost genuine. Almost. That must have been awful, Alice said softly. It was. But maybe... He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Maybe you could help fill that emptiness, Cara. Not as a daughter, as something more. His hand slid down her neck, and Alice went rigid. Zio Matthias. Don't call me that. His grip tightened. I'm not your uncle, and you're not really Santino's sister, are you? The world stopped. In her ear. Florence. Say Florence. Now. But Matthias's other hand was already covering her mouth, pulling her behind a cluster of trees away from the path. His body pressed against hers, trapping her against rough bark. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? He hissed. The way you look at him, the way he looks at you. Siblings don't look at each other like that, like they want to devour each other. Alice struggled, but he was stronger, his hand crushing her jaw. Now, you're going to tell me the truth. Who are you really? FBI? DEA? One of his whores playing dress-up? She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't scream. Then Matthias gasped, his eyes bulging. The cold barrel of a gun pressed against the base of his skull. Take your fucking hands off her! Santino's voice was death itself. Now. Matthias released her immediately, hands raised. Alice stumbled forward, gasping for air. Santino stepped around Matthias, never lowering the gun, positioning himself between Alice and the older man. He was fury incarnate, jaw clenched, eyes black with rage, the dragon tattoo seeming to writhe on his neck. "Santino! Amico, this is a misunderstanding. You put your hands on her." Each word was a bullet. "You threatened her." "I was just... You called her a whore." The gun cocked. "Santino, please." Alice found her voice touching his arm. He was trembling with barely controlled violence. "Don't. Not here. Not like this." "He touched you," Santino said, never taking his eyes off Matthias. "He hurt you." "I'm fine. Please." For a long moment she thought he'd pull the trigger anyway. Consequences be damned. Then slowly, he lowered the gun. "You have 10 seconds to disappear," he told Matthias. "If I ever see you near her again, if you so much as speak her name, I'll kill you. Not quickly, not cleanly. Do you understand?" Matthias nodded frantically, already backing away. "And Matthias?" Santino's smile was terrifying. "I know about Genoa, about Thursday. Whatever you're planning, it's over." The blood drained from Matthias's face. He turned and ran. The moment he was gone, Santino holstered his gun and grabbed Alice, pulling her into his arms. "Did he hurt you? Tell me he didn't." "I'm okay. I'm okay." But she was shaking, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. "Cristo, Alice." His hands ran over her, checking for injuries, his touch gentle despite the violence still vibrating through him. "When he grabbed you, when I heard him through the mic, I've never moved so fast in my life." "How did you—" "I was following you, the whole time. You think I'd really let you face him alone?" His forehead pressed against hers, his breathing ragged. "If I'd been 1 second slower." "But you weren't." They stood like that, clinging to each other. The pretense finally dropped. There was nothing sisterly about the way he held her, nothing brotherly about the way his hands trembled against her back. "He knows," Alice whispered. "He knows I'm not really your sister." "I know," I heard. "What do we do now?" Santino pulled back just enough to look at her face. His thumb traced where Matthias had grabbed her jaw, his expression murderous. "Now?" He cupped her face with both hands, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "Now I finish what I started 3 years ago. And you," his thumb brushed her lower lip, "you stay where I can protect you, where no one can ever touch you again." "Santino." "I'm done pretending, Alice." His voice dropped to a rough whisper, raw and real. "I'm done lying to myself about what this is, what you are to me. What am I?" He kissed her, not gently, not carefully, but with 3 weeks of pent-up desire and denial, tasting of desperation and hunger, and something deeper than either of them wanted to name. Alice's world exploded into sensation. His hands in her hair, his body hard against hers, his mouth claiming her like she was air, and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, his eyes were wild. "Mine," he said simply. "You're mine. And God help anyone who tries to take you from me." It should have scared her, should have sent her running. Instead, Alice pulled him back down and kissed him again. Because somewhere between the lies and the danger, between the contract and the charade, the impossible had happened. She'd fallen in love with the monster, and he'd become human for her. The ride back to the mansion was silent, charged. Santino drove himself, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping Alice's like a lifeline. Neither spoke. Words felt inadequate after that kiss, after the line they'd just crossed. When they arrived, he led her straight to his office, locking the door behind them. "We need to talk," he said, finally releasing her hand. He poured himself whiskey with shaking fingers. "About what just happened. You kissed me. I shouldn't have." But his eyes said otherwise. "You're here because I blackmailed you, because you had no choice. That makes this—" He gestured between them. "Wrong." Alice stepped closer. "And if I told you I wanted it?" That I've wanted it for days. His jaw clenched. Don't. Don't what? Tell the truth. She was done pretending, done hiding. You said you were done lying to yourself. So stop. We both know this stopped being an act the moment you touched me. Santino slammed the glass down. You don't understand what you're saying. What being with me means. I'm not a good man, Alice. I've killed people. Destroyed families. I'm planning to murder Matthias in cold blood. I know who you are. Do you? Do you know I watched my father bleed out and felt nothing but rage? That I've spent 3 years becoming exactly what he wanted, a weapon with no conscience. He moved toward her, eyes blazing. Do you know that even now, I'm using you? That Thursday's shipment is a trap, and I need Matthias to believe you're still feeding me information. Then use me. Alice refused to back down. I knew what I signed up for. This isn't what you signed up for. His control shattered. He grabbed her shoulders, not rough, but desperate. You were supposed to play a part for a month and disappear. Not this, not us. There is no us, Alice whispered, unless you want there to be. The words hung between them. Santino's forehead dropped to hers, his breath ragged. I can't protect you if you stay. Matthias knows now. He'll come after you to get to me. Then let me help you finish this. How? Alice's mind raced. He thinks I'm your weakness. Let's prove him right. Make him believe you're distracted, vulnerable. When he moves against you on Thursday, he won't expect you to be ready. Santino pulled back, studying her face. You want to be bait. I want to end this, for you, for your father. She touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. Let me do this. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then his hand covered hers, turning to press a kiss to her palm. If I let you do this, if anything happens to you... His voice broke. I won't survive it, Alice. You need to understand that. You've become... He stopped, the words too dangerous to say aloud. But she heard them anyway. Thursday, Alice said softly. We end this Thursday, and then? Then you're free. New life, new name. Everything I promised. And if I don't want to be free, if I want to stay... Santino's eyes darkened with something fierce and possessive. Then you'd be signing a different kind of contract, one that binds you to a monster for life. Alice smiled. I'm not afraid of monsters anymore. He kissed her then, slower this time, savoring. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head back as he deepened the kiss. Alice melted into him, feeling the careful control he always maintained finally slip. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. 3 more days, he murmured. Stay alive for 3 more days, then I'll give you everything. My name, my protection, my... He stopped, but the word heart hung unspoken between them. I promise, Alice whispered. But promises, she was learning, were dangerous things in this world, especially when made to men who dealt in death. The next 3 days were preparation and pretense. Santino's men reinforced the mansion. Alice memorized plans, escape routes, safe houses. Vittoria taught her how to shoot, though Alice prayed she'd never need to use it. At night, Santino came to her room. Not for sex, though the tension between them was unbearable, but simply to hold her, as if reassuring himself she was real. Tell me about your life before, he said one night, fingers tracing patterns on her arm. Your real life. So Alice told him. About her parents who died in a car crash when she was 19. About working 3 jobs to pay for college. About dreams of becoming an art teacher that died when the money ran out. You should have had that life, Santino said quietly. Not this. Maybe this is the life I was meant for. His arms tightened around her. After Thursday, you can have whatever life you want. I'll make sure of it. Wednesday night, Matthias called. Tomorrow, his voice was cold, all pretense of warmth gone. Your brother will learn what happens to those who betray me, and you, Piccola, will watch him fall." The line went dead. Alice found Santino in his armory, checking weapons with clinical precision. He called. "He's coming." "Good." Santino loaded a clip with steady hands. "Let him come. I'll be ready." Alice watched him, this beautiful, broken man who'd turned into her whole world in 3 weeks. The dragon on his neck seemed alive in the dim light, a symbol of the fire that burned inside him. "Santino?" He looked up, and the love in his eyes nearly broke her. "Don't you dare die on me tomorrow," she said fiercely. He crossed to her, cupping her face. "I've survived 3 years for this moment. I'm not dying until I've made him pay. And then—" his thumb brushed her lips. "Then I'm yours, for however long you'll have me. Forever might not be long enough." He kissed her, pouring every unspoken word into it. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. "Tomorrow, we end this. Together." But as Alice lay awake that night, Matthias's words echoed in her mind. Watch him fall. And she wondered if love would be enough to survive what was coming. Thursday arrived wrapped in fog, Alice dressed in black, as Santino had instructed. The gun he'd given her felt heavy against her ribs, hidden beneath her jacket. She looked at herself in the mirror. 3 weeks ago, she'd been nobody. Now, she was preparing for war. "They'll come at sunset," Santino said, entering her room. He wore all black, too, weapons concealed beneath his tailored suit. The dragon tattoo seemed more menacing today. "Matthias thinks he's walking into a trap for me. He doesn't know it's his own grave." Alice turned to him. "Where do you need me?" "Safe room, locked door, away from this." "No." His eyes flashed. "Alice, we do this together or not at all?" She grabbed his hand. "You said I was yours. That means I stand with you, not hiding while you fight." Santino's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Stay close to me. If I tell you to run, you run. Capisce? Capisco." He pulled her into a fierce kiss. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I need you to know that, in case—" "Don't." Alice pressed her fingers to his mouth. "Tell me after, when this is over." They came at 7:30, 6 cars, 20 men. Matthias stepped out last, smiling like he'd already won. Santino met him at the door, Alice at his side. His men positioned throughout the house, invisible, waiting. Santino and the lovely Alice. Matthias's smile was poisonous. "I'm glad you're both here. Saves time." "The shipment doesn't exist," Santino said calmly. "There is no Genoa delivery. Just you, walking into the last mistake you'll ever make." Matthias laughed. "You think I came here unprepared? I have 20 men. I have 30, and home advantage." Santino's hand moved to his gun. "You killed my father. Tonight, I kill you." "Prove it." Matthias's eyes gleamed. "Prove I gave the order." "I don't need proof. I have Alice." Matthias's smile faltered. "What?" "You talk too much at Carmine's. Mentioned things only someone involved in my father's murder would know." It was a bluff, but delivered with such conviction that doubt flickered across Matthias's face. "She recorded everything." "You're lying." "Am I?" Santino pulled Alice closer. "Tell him what you told me, amore mio." Alice stepped forward, her voice steady. "You said my brother was making dangerous decisions. That everyone makes mistakes eventually. But the night his father died, there was no mistake. Just 17 stab wounds and a son left to find the body." She met Matthias's eyes. "You knew about the 17 wounds. We never released that detail. Only the killer would know." Matthias's face went pale. "You little bitch!" The gunshot was deafening. Matthias staggered, blood blooming on his shoulder. Santino's gun was smoking. "That's for touching her," Santino said coldly. Chaos erupted. Matthias's men rushed the house. Santino's men emerged from shadows. Gunfire shattered windows. Alice dropped behind the marble counter, gun in her trembling hands. Santino moved like death itself, precise, lethal, unstoppable. Bodies fell. Blood painted expensive wallpaper. Then Alice saw him. One of Matthias's men circling behind Santino, gun raised at his unprotected back. She didn't think, just raised her weapon and fired. The man dropped. Santino spun, saw what she'd done, his eyes widening with something between horror and pride. "Get to the safe room!" he shouted. "Now!" But Matthias had disappeared into the house, wounded and desperate. Alice ran, not to the safe room, but following the blood trail. She found him in Santino's office, rifling through the desk, looking for leverage, for weapons, for anything. Looking for this? Alice held up a flash drive, the real evidence Santino had gathered over 3 years. Names, dates, transactions linking Matthias to the murder. Matthias turned, gun raised. "Give it to me." "No. I'll kill you. Then Santino will kill you slower." Alice's hand was steady now. "It's over, Matthias. You've lost." "I haven't lost until I'm dead." He lunged. The door burst open. Santino entered like an avenging angel, gun trained on Matthias's head. "Step away from her." Matthias grabbed Alice, arm around her throat, gun to her temple. "Drop your weapon or she dies." Santino's face went blank, the most terrifying expression Alice had ever seen. "You won't kill her," he said softly. "Because the second you do, nothing in this world will save you from what I'll do to you. I'll take my chances." Alice drove her elbow into Matthias's wounded shoulder. He howled, grip loosening. She dropped, rolled away. Santino fired twice. Matthias fell, blood pooling beneath him, eyes wide with shock. Santino crossed to him, standing over the dying man. "This is for my father," he said, and fired once more. Silence fell like snow. Santino dropped the gun, pulled Alice into his arms, checking her frantically. "Are you hurt? Did he—" I'm fine." She was shaking, adrenaline crashing. "Is it over?" "It's over." He held her so tight she could barely breathe. "It's finally over." Around them, Santino's men were securing the house, removing bodies, erasing evidence. This would never reach the police. In their world, justice was delivered with bullets, not gavels. Alice looked at Matthias's body, expecting to feel horror, guilt. She felt nothing but relief. "I killed a man tonight," she whispered. "You saved my life." Santino cupped her face. "You saved us both. What happens now?" His eyes softened, the ice melting completely. "Now we choose. You can still walk away. New life, new name, clean slate. Or you stay. With me. In this life." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "It won't be easy. There will be more nights like this. More danger. But I swear to you, Alice Brennan, I will spend every day making you happy. Keeping you safe. Loving you with everything I have." Alice thought of the girl she'd been 3 weeks ago. Desperate, alone, broken. Then she looked at the man before her. A monster who'd learned to be human. A killer who'd learned to love. "I choose you," she said. "I choose us." Santino kissed her as the sun set over the city, as sirens wailed in the distance, as their old lives burned away, and something new, something beautiful, rose from the ashes. The contract was complete, but their story was just beginning. 1 year later, Alice woke to sunlight streaming through silk curtains and the smell of espresso. She stretched lazily, her hand finding the empty space beside her still warm. A smile curved her lips as she heard movement from the balcony, the clink of porcelain, the rustle of newspaper. Some things never changed. She slipped on a robe and stepped outside. Santino sat at the small table, shirtless, reading the Wall Street Journal. The dragon tattoo on his neck caught the morning light, but the tension that once lived in his shoulders had softened. "Buongiorno, amore mio," he murmured, setting down the paper. His eyes, Those dark, dangerous eyes that had once held only ice, now warmed when they found her. "You let me sleep in." Alice settled into his lap, his arms automatically wrapping around her waist. "You needed it. You were up late working on the gallery proposal." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "How's it coming?" The gallery, her dream, resurrected from ashes. Santino had purchased a building in Soho, helped her transform it into an art space for underprivileged students. In 2 weeks, they'd have the grand opening. "Almost ready." She turned in his arms, studying his face. The sharp edges had softened over the past year, though he was no less beautiful. "Nervous?" "About your gallery?" "Never. You're extraordinary, Alice. The world just needs to see what I've known all along." She kissed him, slow and deep, tasting coffee and promise. After Matthias's death, everything had changed. Santino had dismantled the violent parts of his empire, keeping only legitimate businesses. It hadn't been easy. There were challenges, threats, former associates who saw his transformation as weakness, but Alice had stood beside him through it all. "I spoke to Marco yesterday," Santino said, referring to his second-in-command. "The last of the old contracts are closed. We're clean, Tesoro, completely legitimate. How does it feel?" He considered. Strange. Lighter. Like I can finally breathe. His hand found hers, thumb brushing the diamond on her finger. "My father built an empire on blood. I'm building one on art, real estate, innovation. He'd hate it. Or maybe he'd be proud. You survived. You won. I won because of you." Santino pulled her closer. "You gave me a reason to want more than revenge. To want a life, not just existence." Alice touched his face, tracing the strong line of his jaw. "Do you ever regret it? Letting me stay?" "Every day." Her heart clenched until she saw his smile. "I regret that you had to see that violence, that you had to kill to save me, that I dragged you into my darkness." His forehead pressed to hers. "But letting you stay? Loving you? Never. You're the only good thing I've ever done." "That's not true." "It is." His hands framed her face. "Before you, I was already dead. Just didn't know it yet. You brought me back to life, Alice." She kissed him again, pouring a year's worth of love into it. They'd been married for 6 months now. A small ceremony, just Vittoria and a few trusted friends. Alice had worn emerald silk. Santino had cried when he saw her. "I have something for you," he said suddenly, reaching for a folder on the table. "I was waiting for the right moment." Inside were documents. Alice's eyes widened as she read. "Santino, this is the deed to your old apartment building in Brooklyn. I bought it, renovated every unit, and I'm signing it over to you." His eyes were soft. "Those families who struggled like you did, they have affordable housing now, safe homes. Because of you." Tears blurred her vision. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep making me want to be better. Keep showing me that monsters can change. You were never a monster, just a man who'd forgotten how to be human." A phone buzzed. Santino checked it, his expression shifting. "What is it?" "Detective Morrison. He wants to meet." Santino's jaw tightened. "There are still questions about Matthias's death, loose ends." Alice's stomach dropped. "Will there be trouble?" "No, I've made sure of that." He kissed her forehead. "That life is over, amore. I promise you. No more blood, no more violence. Just us." "Just us," she echoed. They spent the morning wrapped in each other, making love as the sun climbed higher, whispering promises and plans. Afterward, lying tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets, Santino's fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare back. "I want to take you to Italy," he murmured. "Show you where my mother grew up. The real Florence, not the fabricated stories." "I'd love that. And after, maybe we talk about expanding our family?" Alice's breath caught. She turned to face him, finding vulnerability in his eyes. You want children? I want everything with you. A life so full and bright it erases all the darkness that came before. His hand splayed across her stomach. But only if you want it too. Alice thought of the girl she'd been, desperate, alone, signing a contract with the devil. Then she looked at the man beside her, transformed by love, fighting daily to be worthy of her trust. I want it, she whispered. All of it. With you. His kiss was reverent, grateful, full of awe that she'd chosen him. Still chose him, every single day. That evening, they hosted dinner at the mansion. Real guests, real laughter. Vittoria had become like a mother to Alice, teaching her not just how to survive in this world, but how to thrive. You've done well, Vittoria told Alice in the kitchen, squeezing her hand. Both of you. I didn't think it was possible, but you've given that boy a soul again. He always had one. It was just buried. And you dug it out, with nothing but stubbornness and love. Vittoria smiled. His father would have hated you. I think that's the highest compliment I can give. After dinner, Alice found Santino in his office. No longer an armory, but a study. Books lined the walls. Art hung in gilded frames. Come here, he said, pulling her onto his lap behind the mahogany desk. I want to show you something. He opened a drawer, removed a burned piece of paper. The contract. Her signature still visible despite the charred edges. I kept it. A reminder of the day my life changed. He touched her signature. You know what the worst part was? Watching you sign away your freedom. Hating myself for forcing your hand. And the best part? His smile was devastating. Every moment since. Alice took the contract, walked to the fireplace and threw it in. They watched it burn, the last physical evidence of how they'd begun turning to ash. No more contracts, she said, returning to his arms. Just promises. I promise to love you until my last breath. To protect you. To build you a life worthy of the woman you are. I promise to stand beside you. To remind you who you are when the darkness calls. To love every broken piece of you. Santino kissed her as the contract burned away completely. Outside, the city glittered with possibility. Inside, a monster and the woman who'd tamed him held each other close, knowing they'd survived the impossible. They'd found love in the darkest place and turned it into something beautiful. Tayand.